Hello, 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 hello. Okay. Hey guys, welcome back to Scalar Academy's YouTube channel. My name is Nikhil Malankar and I'm the founder and CEO of Gameobjects Studios. I also have an active YouTube channel by the same name, Nikhil Malankar. And today I'm here to talk about games and game development and how you can get started to make your own games in Unity game engine. So first of all, a warm welcome. I hope you guys are having a wonderful evening. I hope you guys are having a wonderful Sunday evening. And thanks a lot for coming by to Scalar Academy's YouTube channel to learn a new skill of game development. But before I get started with game development and how to make games in Unity, let's just talk briefly about what is the scope of game development in India and how you can create a career out of making games. So before we set the context for why Unity, let's set the context of why games and game development. So guys, game development has been steeply growing in scale and magnitude over the last couple of years, and specifically in India. If you look at India as a country, we've been making some great progress in this field. There have been some amazing games coming out of India, and the Indian gaming scenario is only improving day by day. So amidst all of this, it is extremely important for anyone who wants to start their career in this industry to know where to get started and what are the tools that are available. So in this video, I will make my best effort to, one, teach you how to make games, and second, also about a little bit about this industry, because making the games is one part, but also how to survive in this industry, how to get your job. All of that is extremely critical and mandatory as well, mandatory to know as well. But let's just talk about the scale of this industry. In the year 2021, this was globally almost $175 billion industry in terms of the value, and this was a report created by Newzoo. Like this, a lot of amazing game developers are creating their own games and making their name in this field. So we've seen so many games coming out and becoming popular, right? So when I get asked this simple question, what is the scope of game development in India, I always say that the scope is dependent on your efforts, directly on your efforts. How much are you willing to put your own time and effort in learning? And since you are here right now at a Sunday evening, I see that commitment from you, because you're here right on Scalar Academy's channel to learn about games and game development. So first of all, congratulations to you for coming down onto Scalar Academy's channel and wanting to learn this skill. So this is an achievement for yourself. Secondly, now coming to game development as an industry, I think we've seen some great amount of progress, and just in terms of the scale of games being developed, we are also in India now seeing some really big quality games, high quality games coming out of India. No longer are developers focusing only on creating casual games, but there is also a new wave of audience that is creating some amazing games by themselves. Also guys, this is just a little bit about the session. This is a live session. It is not a pre-recorded session. I saw a comment that it's a pre-recorded session, but it's not. So the way that we will be dividing this session is that this is going to be a total of 1 hour 45 minutes of session. The first 1 hour and 30 minutes will be dedicated to me talking about games, and then also giving you a walkthrough about how to use Unity and what is Unity for that matter. And then the last 15 minutes we will be opening it up for Q&A. So whatever doubts you have regarding games or game development, feel free to ask towards the end of it. And guys, before I start the stream, I would also request everyone to hit the like button on this stream, because this is going to be a fun-filled session. Additionally, if you have not already subscribed to Scalar Academy's YouTube channel, press the subscribe button and also hit the bell icon so that you never miss another update from Scalar Academy, because there is tons to learn from Scalar Academy's YouTube channel. All the technical skills you get to learn over here, and I think they are doing a fabulous job through this channel, teaching people technical skills that are required to make it big into their respective fields. And I want to also thank Scalar Academy for shedding light towards gaming industry, because I think a lot of guidance is needed for people who want to get started in this industry. And I feel while online there are multiple resources, I think knowledge is only I would say there's an unlimited scope to even learn more and more about this industry. So as a career path, I think gaming industry is now a safe bet to play, because gone are the days wherein people used to doubt the career, a kid's career in game development. We see companies like Nazara, for that matter, getting listed onto the stock exchange. An Indian gaming company getting listed onto the stock exchange. That speaks volumes about how far we've come as an industry. Additionally, there are also amazing games being developed from this from the developers side. So the scope is huge, the scope is massive, and it is only improving day by day, right? Nowadays, if you're watching this particular stream and you're able to pick up this skill, you yourself will be able to make some amazing games by just learning the basics of Unity game engine. Now let's come towards the Unity game engine side. All right, now you may ask, what is Unity game engine? I assume that you may not know anything about game development, or you don't know anything what a game engine is. So to explain it in a very simple term, a game engine is a software that enables you to make a game. All right, that's the core of it. That's the simplest explanation that I can give you. Now, are there different types of game engines? Absolutely, there are. Can you make a game without a game engine? Absolutely, you can, but that is a very tough way to go, because when you don't rely on a game engine, you have to make a lot of things by yourself. You have to write the graphics engine, you have to write the UI code, you have to write the physics side of things. So it's a lot of hard work, and it's a lot of effort to put into just starting to make games. So what game engines have done is they've made it extremely simple for you. What they've done is you can just pick up a game engine, you can start with an idea, you can write down that idea and jot down whatever you want to build, and after that you can just get started. It is literally as simple as I say. The only reason why people might not get this industry or how to make games is because perhaps they might not be investing that much time in learning. But you guys are smart. You are watching this video because you want to learn this skill, and today I will be hand holding you and telling you how you, as aspiring game developer, can start and make your own games. So with that in mind, now I explained what a game engine is, and I also told you that there are different types of game engines, and I also told you why a game engine is important for you to get started, right? Let's explore what are the different types of game engines now. So as I mentioned, today we are going to learn about Unity game engine. But is Unity game engine the only engine out there? Absolutely no. There are some different types of game engines as well, and for every different game engine there is like a different narrative. So Unity game engine is, according to me, a universal game engine that can be used to make any type of game, literally any type of game. But apart from Unity, there is Unreal Engine, there is CryEngine, there is Construct 3, there is Phaser, there is Godot, there is GDevelop, all of these kinds of engines. But for me, what I think is, I love Unity 3D primarily because there is a lot of resources available online, and you can pick up this engine and it is extremely easy to use. And you will see how easy it is over the next 1 hour, because I will be walking you through the entire game engine and the basics of it. And I can assure you that the basics are what you need to actually start making games in this engine, because everything else is just an extension of the basics. Today we will be learning what what is the interface of Unity game engine, what does it look like, what sort of, where do you download it, is it free, is it paid, or how do you write your first code in the engine. All of the basics, every single thing we will be walking through about Unity game engine. And obviously there are other engines as well that might be equally as easy to pick up. But personally, I always recommend a Unity game engine because it is extremely easy. It's providing the right set of tools. It is providing the right set of assets to work with. It also helps the developers through their community. And if you just type Unity tutorials, you will get tons of resources available online. much like this video, right? Scalar Academy is bringing this video to you. That itself is a testament of how easily accessible Unity tutorials are. So, I'll just talk a little bit about the industry for the next 5 minutes more, and after that we will get right into the game engine, and you will learn how easy it is to make games in Unity game engine. So now let's talk about the engine itself. This was an engine that has matured over the years and has seen tons of development happening in the engine itself. Every few months there are improvements done in the engine that make it even more stable and that kind of bring a lot of value to the developer. So I remember using Unity back in 2013 when I used to make my first few games, and since then till now, if you look at the evolution of the engine, it has gone through a massive change, and it has so many updates, it has so many assets. The asset store itself of the engine is so extensive that anything that you want to make is possible in Unity game engine. You are only restricted by your imagination, you are only restricted by your own technical expertise of the engine. Now, having said so, one simple mindset you must have whenever you pick up a new skill is that you will never ever be able to learn every single thing of the said software. It is a constant evolution process for yourself. It is a constant back and forth. It is a constant practice. I remember putting in, I don't know, like 7 hours, 8 hours per day in just learning how programming works or how this engine works. So I would just request you to have the same set of temperament. You need to have patience. You need to know that it is going to take time, because nothing great happens quickly, right? Nothing amazing happens overnight, and you need to dedicate time. You need to dedicate that kind of passion. You need to have that passion in order to learn any skill. So now what I'll do is we'll keep it really simple. I will share my screen and we will step by step walk through a lot of interesting aspects about what it is to make games in Unity game engine. So let's get started now. I know I've got the next 3 minutes to show you the interface and all, but now what I'll do is I'll walk you through where exactly you will be able to download Unity game engine, and post that we will get right into the engine. So now I'll share my screen. If you look over here, I have shared my screen, and you can see this is the official website of Unity. So unity.com is the official website, and this engine is completely free for individuals. There are paid versions as well, but I think as a starter you need not worry about that, because Unity as an engine has been free and is still free for anyone who earns less than $200,000. So it's not mandatory for you to buy the license, but if you do, there's just one additional feature that you get, is that you get to remove the splash screen. So whenever you make any games with the Unity game engine and you deploy it onto, say, a PC or an Android, that time you get to start the game, and then at the very beginning you get introduced with a splash screen. In the paid version of the software, you get to just do away with the splash screen. So let's say, like, if we go over here, this is the plans and pricing. So you can either download this as an individual, wherein you get the student and personal license for free, and there is a Teams version as well, the Plus version and the Pro version. This is kind of you can prepay it $399 per year per seat, or $1,800 per year per seat. If we look at the system specifications that you need to run a Unity game engine, I think it's not as high as you might imagine. You will need like a decent graphic card. I would recommend having at least a 4 GB graphic card and 8 GB of RAM in terms of the system that you will be needing. You need not build an RTX system. You need not invest heavily in making a gaming beast rig in order to be able to run Unity game engine. So that's a bit about where you can download the engine and what's the website and stuff. Now let's take a look at some of the popular games that have been made in Unity, because obviously now you will want to know that, okay, why should I use this engine? What are the games that have already been made in the engine, right? So like I did a small bit of Google search, and here's what I've come up with. So games like Cuphead, games like Hearthstone, games like Rust, City Skylines, games like Kerbal Space Program have all been made in Unity game engine. So you can imagine what all you can do in the engine, right? I'm not sure why Unreal is coming over here. I'm pretty sure it was not made in Unity game engine, but anyway. So if you just go ahead on Wikipedia, you will find all this list of multiple games that have been made in Unity game engine, and you can find this list sorted by years. So 2005, 2008 Dead Frontier, Three Kingdoms Online, 2013 Dead Effect, Dead Trigger 2, then in 2014 Mini Metro. Mini Metro is also a game that I personally enjoy playing a lot. Then in 2016 there was NASCAR Heat Evolution that was made. Super Mario Run was made in Unity. In 2017 NASCAR Heat 2. You can go ahead and check out this list. Now when you start the engine itself, you need to go through somewhat what is known as the Unity Hub. Now, what is a Unity Hub? As soon as you install Unity, you can just go ahead and get started, and from here you can pick your license. I'll just, for the sake of this video, I'll just click on Get Started, and you can just download for Windows. As soon as you download for Windows, you will get something known as the Unity Hub. So what is Unity Hub? Like, this is something new that has recently been popped up, but I'll just give you a small introduction about the entire setup. One second. So this is essentially what is Unity Hub. So all right, so I was just resizing my windows and stuff. All right, so what do we see over here is that in Unity Hub you will see essentially the list of all your projects. We will also be making some videos, making some projects over here as I show you. But here what you need to do is, Unity Hub is a central place for you to actually install multiple versions. As I walked you through the earlier statement, right, wherein I mentioned that Unity has evolved over the years and they have had multiple versions and multiple iterations of their engine. Like, they have improved the engine to such an extent that anything and everything that you can imagine now is a part of the engine. So I remember back in the day there was this framework called NGUI, which was a separate UI asset available on the asset store of Unity game engine. And now if you look at Unity as an engine, that NGUI asset has been integrated inside the engine itself. So like this, they've made multiple advancements in the engine itself. And as you can see on my system, I have multiple versions of Unity game engine installed, and that's because I've been using this engine for quite a while now. And you can see over here there is a really interesting badge that is mentioned over here, that is long-term support, and this is this LTS badge. Okay, and you can see that this LTS badge is only on select few versions. Now what does an LTS mean? What does an LTS version mean? So LTS version is something that Unity as a company maintains over the long term. Now what happens is, choosing your version of the engine is also really critical, because whenever you make some project, you have to make sure that you are using the same engine, but within the same engine you are consistently keeping the same version. And when you're a big company, let's say you're as big as a AAA studio, so that time if you even switch a version of your engine by let's say if some version is made in 2017.4.26 F1 and I want to upgrade my Unity engine's version to say 2017.4.39 F1, there might be implications that you might not be aware of. There might be changes within the versions of the engine itself that might break your project, and that might just essentially delay the timeline of production. So for that reason, it is very important for you to maintain the same version, and within the same version, if there are any glitches or anything, right? So the engine developer themselves keep on launching these updates and bug fixes for the engine. And usually for the versions in Unity that are not LTS, are generally abandoned, but LTS versions are the ones that are really, taken care of. So if you can see, I have 2017 LTS, I have 2018 LTS, 2019 LTS, and 2020 LTS as well. So these engines are, generally maintained in a much more structured way. And I have all these engines installed because I've got a couple of projects that were made back in 2017, some made in 2018, some made in 2019, and some in 2020. So that's the reason why these versions are really important. So pick your versions correctly, and I would recommend pick a version that has LTS. All right. This badge is really important. And if you want to add a new version, all you have to do is add, and then you can select your version over here. So this is generally the installation process. All right. And once you do this, and let's just do a rough walkthrough. Let's say if I choose 2019.4.36 F1, all right, this is an LTS version, so I will prefer to have an LTS version. I click on next, and within this next, I can choose to install any of these components as well. So I already have Microsoft Visual Studio Code, which is different from Microsoft Studio Community 2019. So I'll choose to skip this. And since I am primarily a mobile games developer, we make games for Android and iOS, so I will install, say, an Android build support and an iOS build support. Like this, according to your needs and requirements, you can choose whatever components you want. If you want to build for web, you can select a WebGL support. You can also have multiple language packs and stuff. You can also choose to have a documentation of the engine installed. I will skip this process because I already have Unity versions installed. Now coming to the projects now. So we we took a look at the install side of things, wherein we found out what an LTS version is and what kind of version will be correct for you. Now we will come to this projects tab, something that you can see over here. I've already created a project over here that is test project, and I've located it inside my scalar project. But if you want to make a new project, let's say, all right, so all you have to do is click new over here, and over here you can write your project's name, whatever that is. It's if you want to make a running game, you can type and keep the name of the project as a running game, or whatever you want. And something on the left hand side of things, you can see there is like a 2D and 3D high definition RP, universal render pipeline, mobile 2D, mobile 3D, AR, VR. So this is essentially what platform or what kind of quality you want to make for the game. All right, so I generally prefer using, say, a 3D or a 2D framework depending on the type of game that I want to make. But this essentially what this does is it just sets your project folder in such a way that it is accustomed, or it is I would say tuned to the kind of game that you want to make. I've already created a project, so I will not do this because it takes a while to actually open the project, and since we are live and short on time, so I just thought that I'll keep a project created, so it just saves time for all of us. All right, so when this project is created, that time after the project is created, something like, you can see something like this. Now this folder was also not present, and this is something that I created myself. This is how the interface of Unity in Game Engine looks like. Now this has actually stayed quite consistent over the years. So I'll just walk you through the entire basics of it. You can resize all of these windows according to however you want. This is how the engine looks like, and you can kind of have like a different layouts. Let's say I generally prefer this layout because this is just my work style, but some developers, they want to, let's say, like use a 4 split, wherein you can have different views on top and side of each other. I can also have like a 2x3 split, which gives me this look. This is completely the preference of the developer. I can have like a tall layout, a wide layout, or the default layout. Now I'll tell you why I prefer the default layout, because in the default layout, everything is in front of you. I'm sorry. So let us understand what is in front of us. So if you see over here at the center of the screen, you have something known as your scene view. So what is a scene view exactly? every single thing that is going to be a part of your game will be somewhere in the scene view. All right, every single thing that is going to be a part of your game, be it visible, invisible, or maybe a level that is going to be streamed later on, every single thing is going to be a part of the scene view. Then there is something known as the game view, which you will find over here, scene and game. All right, so in the game view, this view essentially shows you how your game will look like. All right, so if, let's say, if I build this game and I deploy it onto my mobile phone, this is how my game will look like. Nothing is there, right? Because we haven't put anything over here. Now there are some interesting things over here to note, is that this is not the only view, right? So there is the scene view and the game view, but then there are some other parts of the window as well. So you can see there is something known as the hierarchy view over here. Over here you can find there is hierarchy on the left, there is inspector on the right, there is projects on the bottom, and there is also this tab called as console. I'll come to the console part later, but let's just understand each of these things in further detail. Let's start with the hierarchy view. All right, so everything that is a part of your scene view will be a part of the hierarchy view in a form of a list. All right, now if you see over here, I have my sample scene, which is the name of the file of the scene that we are working on. So whenever you save anything, this particular framework gets saved as a scene, which is a part of your Unity's project folder. If you look over here in the assets folder in the project side, if you double click on this scenes folder, you'll see something known as sample scene. All right, this is named as sample scene, and this is your project structure. And now if you see over here, there is a small arrow in the hierarchy view. I just click on this, and as soon as I click on it, I see two objects that are a part of the list. I can see the main camera, I can see a directional light. If I click on main camera, automatically in my scene view, I can see three arrows. All right, what are these three arrows? We'll find them out in further depth. But before that, let us also take a look at the directional light. I will click on the directional light, and my arrow has now moved somewhere else. What does this denote? This simply denotes that in my scene view, my main camera is over here at the center of these, wherever these arrows converge, my main camera is located over there. And whenever I click on directional light, I see this arrows and a move. So my directional light is located over here. Now this, just see how easily connected everything is in Unity. All right, so as soon as I click on main camera, till the point of time I was not clicking on anything, I lost the arrow, and there's nothing in the folder as such. But as soon as I click on main camera, and if you observe on the right side in your inspector area, a lot of information has popped up. Now let's understand what all information is available to us now. Now what I want you to keep at the back of your mind is that everything that you see on the right hand side in the inspector panel is called as a component. Okay, every single thing that is, let's say, I'll just click on this arrow and depopulate this. So transform, as soon as you click on camera, main camera, you see this list popping up on the inspector panel. There are three objects over here, three components specifically. One is the transform component, second is the camera, and third is your audio listener. Let us take a deeper look at each of these. So if I click on this arrow, and I see over here in the transform, there are multiple different, I would say, values, right? So there is the position value, there is the rotation value, and there is a scale value. What do these numbers mean? There is this position in X, position Y, position Z, rotation X, Y, Z, scale 1, X, Y, Z. If I look at it from my scene view, and I just click on this blue arrow and start moving this, if you will observe on the right hand side in the inspector panel, my Z value changes. All right, I will do Control Z and I'll make the camera move back to its initial position. So over here, if you think about it, like it's so simple, right? This arrow denotes the Z position of my main camera. And how did we come to the conclusion of this? Simple. We clicked on the main camera. We saw that on the right hand side there is multiple properties that have opened up. I saw it from the transform view, and I just took this arrow and moved it further and backwards, and I could see that my Z value was changing over here. So that's how I was able to determine that this position Z corresponds to that particular blue arrow. If I do the same thing in my red arrow, my X value changes. See? And if I do this in the green arrow, that's a superhero's name as well. Wow. Then my Y value changes. So see, transform is a component, and within transform there are multiple values that are essentially telling you what and where the object is, and these are also self-explanatory, right? Position, where is the camera located? Rotation, is it rotated or not? And scale, you will not come to know the significance of scale and on the camera, but we'll just keep this at the back of your head. This will be useful in the later part of the video as well. Scale is 111 right now. We'll just keep it at the side right now. If I click on this arrow on the camera component, I can see multiple properties over here. Don't worry, don't get confused or I would say fearful of the multiple values. We will come to each of them, and eventually once you start learning this engine deeply, you will come to know the significance of each of these things as well. But right now what I want to do is give you a real quick walkthrough on what is it that you need to get started. All right, so as a hygiene point, always what I make it a point is that I'm always organizing my folders properly. So we took a look at the scene view. All right, we saw what a game view is, and we saw hierarchy, and we saw what an inspector panel is. Inspector panel is simply just an entire detail of your object that you clicked on in the hierarchy view. All the properties that are a part of the object are displayed to you in the inspector panel. All right, every single component that is on the object is a part of the inspector panel. All right, so if I do the same thing with directional light and I come back to my scene view, my arrows are over here. You can see some similar setup over here. Transform is over here. But then the next component, which was on our main camera, is different on our directional light. So on my directional light, I can see a component of light, and like this, there will be different kind of components on different object. Is it possible to have multiple cameras? Absolutely, it is. And then you can duplicate multiple cameras. I can just use Control C and Control V. If I do this, I will just have now two cameras, and I can even rotate this camera. I can rotate this, and you can see there's whenever you click on any object, and if it is a camera, you will be able to see over here in this mini window of how things will look from the camera's perspective. So I've clicked on this new camera and I've rotated it, and you can see my the view of that camera is shown over here. Whereas if you click on our original camera, the view is straight, right? View is what it was in the default view. So like this, you can create multiple cameras. Obviously, things get more complicated as you move ahead, but the basics remain the same. Now, what I want you to want to do is now quickly give you an introduction of what is a game object. Everything that you see over here in the scene can be called as a game object, more or less. But just to give you a small example and to show something on screen and working, let's just create a basic object that is already a part of the engine. Let us take a cube on the screen. Now, how do you make a cube appear on the screen? It's very simple. Just go to game object, and over here you will get a list of many things. We'll just go to create a 3D object, and I'll click on cube. If you want to go ahead and add a cube, sphere, capsule, cylinder, that's up to you. As soon as I click on cube, there are two things that have happened now. One, on the left hand side, we could see there is a new item added in the list in the hierarchy view that is named cube. Now it is up to me for me to name this object. So I'll just call this as, say, first cube. All right, and I'll just hit enter. All right, now as soon as I hit enter, I want you to also notice one interesting thing. Whatever the name of this object is over here, if you look at it from the inspector panel, the same name appears over here. So if you want to rename this object, you have two options. Either you can rename it from the inspector panel. I'll just call this first cube 1, and I'll hit the enter. As soon as I hit the enter on the inspector panel's name category, the same name gets updated over here, first cube 1. All right, and if I right click over here and I click rename and I remove the 1 number, that same thing gets updated onto the inspector panel. So this is how both the things are connected. Now let's do a deep dive on the first cube. I will just for the safety hit Control S and save this scene. It is always mandatory for a developer to save all their work and have like Control S handy in your hand. Otherwise, I've faced a lot of nightmare situations where I've lost a lot of progress. So it's just a force of habit for me to keep on hitting Control S even if there is no need at times. All right, so now coming to this entire object again. All right, we have a cube on our screen. Let's see on the game view. So if I start my game right now, this is what I will see on the screen. I have a cube in front of me. Now what I want to do is I want to essentially move this cube. Now I'm able to move this cube like this, but what I can also do is in my game view, if I'm in my game view, I will not get those arrows. I will not be able to see those 3 arrows. I will not be able to control the cube, but that's not true. I can still control the cube. All I have to do is click on this first cube, go to my transform component, and select whatever value I want, and I can either click and drag this, and that's how my cube will start moving in front of me. And as soon as I leave the button, as soon as I release my mouse, this object will get fixed over here. So now this is on minus 1.86. I will just move it back to the 0 position. And what are these values exactly called? These are vectors. These are 3-dimensional vectors. And why are these 3-dimensional vectors? It's because they have 3 components in them, namely the x direction, y direction, and z direction. The same is true in the rotation and scale as well. Whenever you are dealing with vectors, it's a complex mathematical topic that might have been a part of a lot of people's curriculum, and you might have thought that, hey, what are these values? I don't know any significance of these. But this is where it becomes visual to you and practical to you. So this is the importance of vectors, position vectors, rotation. Even in rotation you can use these vectors. Even in terms of the scale, the magnitude of how big or small your object you want. So this is the actual importance of vectors. And in game development, mathematics is really important. If you have a clear understanding of your mathematical concept, every single thing becomes easy for you. All right, now let's come back to the topic of our cube. All right, so what happens is now I will be able to move my object using this X and Y. I just drag and drop over here. I can even manually write down a value. Let's say I want to move this to say x5, right? So I'll just input 5 and my cube has moved in the 5 direction. I'll just click it, I'll just keep it back at 0. Now what I want to do is I want to be able to, in this session, what I'll do is I'll also walk you through a little bit of programming. Okay, you need not know every single thing about programming, but I'll just try to keep it as simple as I can for you. I understand that a lot of you guys might be actually looking at game programming also for the first time, but I'll try to keep it extremely basic. So by the end of this session, what I will do is let's aim at making sure that this cube moves in the right direction, moves in the left direction, moves in the upward direction and downward direction. If we are able to do it in the next till the session ends, then I think I will be able to successfully explain to you of how you can extend the same thought process to basically make any game that you want. Okay, so whenever you are dealing with any game object, right, all you need to keep in mind is how can you tweak each of these components through code. Okay, and in Unity Game Engine, the game programming language, the programming language that is being used is called C#, or it is also known as C#. And as I mentioned, earlier, we got slightly deviated from the topic of maintaining a proper project folder structure. I keep it a habit for myself to always organize my project folders in a proper way. Now, as you can see, there is this inside the scenes folder. I have a sample scene, and if I click on assets folder over here, there is just one folder inside this, that is the scenes folder. What I want to do now is, since I will be starting to code, I want to create a new folder wherein I will keep all my code files. So that's exactly what I'll do. If you remember at the very beginning, I had deleted a scripts folder. Let's now recreate that scripts folder and keep all the code files into that folder. So how to do that? Just come to your projects window, project section, and click over here and right click and click move to create, and just there is this C# script option. Click on that. As soon as you do that, oh my god, we have actually created a script. That's a mistake that I did from my end. I should not have created a script. I wanted to create a folder. So let me just temporarily delete this particular script, and then we will again recreate this as well. All right, so this took a small bit of a hiccup for ourselves, but okay, no worries. I'll go and create a folder first. Okay, as soon as I create a folder, I will call it as a scripts folder. So this is where I was supposed to create that script. Okay, so I have created a scripts folder, called it my scripts folder, and I'll hit the enter button. Now if you see over here, there's a small difference in both these folders. If you see, scenes folder icon looks like this and scripts folder icon looks like this. It looks empty, and that's exactly why, because it is empty. So I'll just double click on this scripts folder, and as soon as I double click it, you can see the scripts option over here. That's how extensive it goes. So let's say if you create a subfolder inside the scripts folder, then that option will appear over here, and that's how you know in which folder you exactly are at that time. If I go back to my assets folder, I can see that there is scenes, then there is scripts. If I double click on scripts folder, I know now that I am inside the scripts folder thanks to this particular area. Now I want to create a script now, all right? Because if you want to make sure that this cube is, you can move the cube, all you need to do is create a script and attach it to that object and make sure that you have the right inputs in place. So that's exactly what I'll do. Now I'll go ahead and inside my scripts folder, I'll click on right click, then create and C# script. And now since we are going to move the cube, I will call this as my movement controller. Okay, I have named this script as movement controller, and I'll simply hit the enter button. As soon as I do this, my script gets selected in the projects view, and on the right side in the inspector panel, I can see a preview of my script. Now let's just do one thing. Let's double click this, and what the double click will do is it will open this script for you. Okay, I'll double click, and as soon as I double click, I can see this is in front of me. Okay, now there are tons of things over here, but you need not get baffled by these. You need to pay attention to two parts. One is this part, and the second one is this part. Let us first dissect this entire script. Okay, what is this? You need not worry about that right now. What is this? You need not worry about that right now either. This is the name of your script, and there are two important functions in this script. So if you have a little bit of background about programming, you might know what a class is and what is a function. For now, if you don't know these basics, I would recommend you at least study about C++ or C#, at least the basics of it, so that whatever I'm talking about right now will make much more sense to you. I'm still trying to keep these things extremely basic so that you will at least understand what is going on. But in order to get a proper full-fledged understanding, I think at least a basic understanding of programming would be needed. So now there are two functions that are in this particular script. There is a void start function and void update function. The importance of these two functions is simply that void start gets called once whenever your game starts, and void update gets called multiple times whenever your game is running. Okay, so to understand update function in a much more simpler term, it's as good as if you are aware of the term FPS. Okay, FPS, I'm not talking about first person shooters, I'm talking about frames per second. So FPS, essentially what it means is how many times in 1 second does your screen get refreshed. Okay, so which means frames per second. So update gets called once every frame. Whenever your screen gets refreshed, every single time update function gets called. So this is where you need to look at, if you want to move objects continuously, that should be a part of your update. If you want to initialize something, let's say if you want to do something only once at the very beginning of your game, then you need to do that in the start function. Let's see how we can do that now. Let's do that with a simple example. What I will do now is, I have this first cube. I will move this in some random place. Okay, let us put a value, let's say x5, y2 and z3. Okay, now the very first challenge for us is simple. I want to make sure that this cube is at the 0 position where we started it from, okay, through a script. But before we do that, I need to guide you to what is known as the game view. Now, although you can see that we are already in the game view, but this is not exactly the importance of the game view. We have not actually started the game. All right. So if you look at the top panel, there is this play button and there is this pause button and there is this skip icon, which is currently disabled. Right now, what I will walk you through is these two buttons. So as soon as you hit the play button, what happens is, this is exactly how your actual game will work. Whenever you hit the icon of any game to start that game, this is essentially that exact thing. This is starting your game. All right. So we have started the game successfully, but nothing is happening right now on the screen. Why is that? It is because we haven't really done anything. We haven't written any code over here. And our challenge now is to simply make sure that this cube is at the 0, 0, 0 position as soon as I hit the play button. So as soon as you hit the play button, your game has started. All right. Now what I want to do is simply make sure that this position is 0, 0, 0 whenever I hit the play button. Now just see how easy this is to do. I've written my script. Okay. I've opened my script and now I will start to write the code. Now, what is it that we want to achieve with this? It's to make sure that we move the cube to the 0, 0, 0 position. And where do we want to do it? We want to do it inside the transform component. Okay. So just see how beautiful and easy this is to write. Okay. I will just write wherever I want to make the change, I'll just write it over there. Okay. Transform. And what is it that I want to change? I want to change the position. Okay. Transform dot position equal to, now if I want to at the very beginning I told you that all these values are vectors, so I want to make sure that my cube is moved to the 0, 0 position, 0, 0, 0 position. So I will simply write, and this is convention, this is what you will pick up as in when you code more. I will say that new vector 3. And yes, there is something known as vector 2 and vector 3. Vector 2 is when you only want to deal with x and y. Vector 3 is when you want to deal with x, y and z, all the 3 components. So I want to move this particular cube in x is 0 position, Y is 0 position, Z's 0 position. Alright, so what I will do is I'll just type 0, 0, 0, and I will end this code with a semicolon. This is the standard practice with any code. You end that one line with a semicolon, and I'll just hit Control S. And I can see that this script is perfect. There is no error inside this script. I will come back to my Unity, and we've written the code, right? So you might think that okay, everything is perfect, everything is set. Now, since I've written the code, as soon as I hit the play button, this cube will come to the 0, 0, 0 position. Let's try ahead and do that. So now what has happened is, although we've written the script and we are in the play button, still the cube has not moved. And why is this now? It's simply because although we have written the script, but the script does not know which object to move it to 0, 0, 0. And that's because this script is also a component. And since this is a component, it needs to be on the object. And if we inspect the object through the inspector panel, we can see on the first cube there are components such as transform, there is cube mesh filter, there is mesh renderer, there is box collider, but there is no component of the script that we just made. So what is the script's name that we have? This is the movement controller script that we made. Okay, now I have to add this component, add this script to my object. I think the last few audio part was lost. Okay, I'll just walk through that same process again. I'm sorry for the technical issue. So there are three ways. One is you can either drag and drop this onto your object, and you can effectively just have the script added onto your object. There's a small issue in the audio. I apologize for that. So okay, so we are back with the audio issue has been solved. Okay. Oh, all right, all right, all right. Okay, sound has gone again. It's primarily because I'm on a slightly glitchy audio USB connection. I'm sorry for that. Okay, we are back over here. Now I'll just click on the add component option here, and I will type my script's name, that is the movement controller. And as soon as I've clicked over here, my movement controller script is added over here. So this is the second way. The first way was for me to simply add this movement controller directly and drag and drop this onto my object. Okay, so I will just remove this component again, and I want to Okay, I think we are back. There was a small issue with my streaming software, wherein I was facing some issue with regards to the audio, which has, I guess, been fixed now, and I hope we won't experience any further issues about this. Alright, so the third way now. The third way is by simply dragging and dropping this object into your inspector panel. So I will just do this, and as soon as I see this blue thingy over here, I'll just drop it over here, and my movement controller script is over here. So now what I am sure is that, okay, my script is onto my object now, and I can be rest assured that this script will work now because I've written in a right way. So I'll just hit the play button, and as soon as I hit the play button, you can see the cube will actually get moved to the center position. And if I inspect the if I inspect the values over here, I can see that my object has now been moved. It's so hard. Let's hope. Yeah, let's hope the audio does not get affected again. I'm not sure what is happening with the USB connection, but I apologize deeply for that. Okay, coming back to the object now, like you can see our script is working. This is Why is this happening? I think it's got to do something with my USB connection, which I tested, but then technical issues can happen anytime, and I deeply apologize for this. Okay, all right, let's gather ourselves back. Once again, apologies. I don't know how many times I'll apologize for this, but once again, apologize for the technical issues in front regards to the audio. Now let's come back to our game. We've written the script now, and we've seen that how we can move the object from any position to its rest position, or you can add any values over here. Let's say if I test this to say 1 comma 1 comma 1, if I want to move the object to 1 comma 1 comma 1, all I have to do is now also make sure that whenever you make any change in your script, you have to press the Control S button. So if you have to save the script, because if you don't do that, nothing will happen. So although I have written 1 comma 1 over here, and I come back to my Unity and I hit the play button, and I still don't have not saved the script yet, right? So what will happen is it will again get moved back to the same 0 comma 0 comma 0 position, and this is only because we have not saved the script. So I'll come back to my code, I will hit the Control S button, and I'll come back to my Unity. I'll wait for it to compile, because whenever you make any code change, it has to take some time to compile, right? And as soon as I hit the compile, as soon as the compile process is finished and I press the play button, now my object will be moved slightly towards the right, because as you can see on my first cube, I have the position 1 comma 1 comma 1. Okay, cool. This is sorted. I will revert. Okay, so we'll revert this to 0 comma 0 comma 0. Now what I want to do is assign some bit of control to the cube. What I want to do is I want to be able to move the object whenever I press the A, W, S, D buttons. Okay, so when I press the A button, my object should move towards the left. When I press the D button, my object should move towards the right. When I press the W button, it should move up, and subsequently if I press the S button, it should move down. Okay, so it's very easy to do this. How you can do this is you cannot do this in the start function, because you have to take continuous updates. And as I mentioned to you earlier, you have to use the update function to do this. How does this happen? It's very easy now. Now, whenever it comes to a keyboard is an input. And the reason why I am able to do all of this is because I have had tons of experience in the Unity game engine itself, right? This is all, I would say, code convention. This is all, syntax that you need to memorize, and that's the reason why you need to have a lot of practice in the, programming space. Because without practice, you will not be able to do much. So now what I want to do is I want to just we've initialized the object at the 0,0,0 position. Whenever I hit any key, I want to make sure that the object moves. So let's say if I will write this code, and I'll explain this to you as well. If input dot get key and then key code, then transform dot position. Now over here on the top, we had actually assigned a position to the object, but now here what we want to do is we want to move the object. So it has to either go in the left side or it has to go in the right side, right? So how can we achieve this is by simply either using a plus sign or a minus sign. So minus is equal to the same syntax, new vector 3, and since I want to move it in the left side, okay, I will use the x coordinate, okay, 1, 0, 0. When I press the A button, I want the object to move 1 unit to the left, okay, and this is my input code ready, okay. So I will just hit Control S. I will come back to my Unity. I will wait for it to compile, and after this I will just press the play button. So as soon as I hit the play button, and now we are in the game view, I will now press A, and as soon as I start pressing A, my object has rapidly started to move, okay, and this is because I am using the function get key. What does get key mean? It means that till the point of time my A button is pressed, the object will keep on moving towards the whichever side that we've determined. So here what I will do is, instead of using get key, I will use get key down, okay. Now see what happens. Now you saw that I was pressing the A button, and just with a small press, it was causing the object to go haywire, right? Because we are moving it by one unit every single time whenever I press that button. But now since I've used get key down gets called only once when you just press the button. So I will just hit the play button now, okay, and I've hit the play button. My object has again come to the center, and I press A, and I've kept it pressed, okay. You can see this over here. I've kept it pressed, but my object is not moving now, and I'll press it again. My object has started moving one unit towards the left, and this is with the A button. Now how do I replicate the same code with D, W or S? Very simple, very simple. I'll just move to the next line. I will write the same code with a small minor change. If input dot get key down key code dot D, and then my program parenthesis transform dot position plus is equal to, on top I had kept minus is equal to because I wanted to move it into the left direction, but since I want to move it into the right direction, I will use plus is equal to new vector 3, essentially the same code, 1 comma 0 comma 0. And just like this, my second movement code is ready. I can now press A and move into the left direction. Okay, so now you will see over here we have made a critical mistake. I've written the code and it has not compiled properly, and you can see that because there is a small error that you can see over here. The type or namespace vector could not be found. If I click over here, this opens up my console window and it tells me. So we've made a critical error over here. It's that instead of using vector 3, we have written only vector over here. So we'll just rectify that. I'll just type vector 3, control S, and this is set. And as soon as I write my code in a proper manner, this error just vanishes away. Alright, so now we are ready with the movement code for A, we are ready with the movement code for D. I'll just press the play button once, and as soon as I press the play button, I can now move this cube in both the direction, that is left. I'm pressing A, and D to move it in the right direction. Now see how simple this is. What we did is we have just dissected the components and we have through script accessed each of these parameters in a way that so now we come back and we just go through the code once. What is happening over here is pretty simple. We first initialize the object to a 0 comma 0 comma 0 position, then in the start function we do that because we want to do it only once. Then in the update function we start taking inputs because as I mentioned, we want to move the object in the left direction and the right direction using our inputs. So we've written small code for this, and over here there's a proper syntax to each of these things. If you see this code properly, if I just increase the font size a little, the syntax for this is the I over here in input is capital. In get key down, whenever you come to the next word, that time every single word is capital. Get may G is capital, K has K capital, D has D capital. Okay, so like this, whatever the syntax is, you will come to know about this only when you practice. All right, so whenever you type or you get to programming, this is very important for you to learn. It can be a really simple mistake, as though as in just key code, instead of writing C capital, you've written a small c. Okay, now this is not defined in the code. Okay, the programming languages are usually case sensitive. So if you write this syntax and you've written a small c in key code, then it will throw an error. And I'll just make this error because I just want you to look at it. And this is generally a very common mistake that a lot of programmers do, that they ignore the case sensitivity of the programming language. So as soon as I wrote a small case c, I got an error over here that the name key code does not exist in the current context, because now my programming language is not able to determine that what is key code with a small c. I know it's dumb, but it is what it is. So I'll just give the programming language whatever they want. So they've defined it key code as having a capital K and a capital C, and that's exactly what we've done. And as soon as we come back to the Unity screen, we see that the error is now vanished. So you have to pay attention to all of these things. Every single thing is very critical for you to pay attention. So all of these things are really important for you to take care. Let's just now walk through the entire concept once again. And in the start function, we initialized the position of our object. In our update function, we took input, namely in the key code A, key code D, and using key code A, we are moving the object 1 unit to the left, and using key code D, we are moving the object 1 unit to the right. The same set of code we can write now for W and S. It's as simple as now if input dot get key down key code dot W transform dot position. Let's just do S first, okay? Just to keep consistency. Minus is equal to new vector 3. I will not forget 3 now. Now should I type 1 in the X position, or should it be in some other position? The clear answer to this is, since you want to move it in the upward direction, it cannot be the same code as you've written for A. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll just write 0 over here, comma 1, because now I want to move it in the upward direction, that is my Y vector, comma 0, because I don't want it to go in the depth. Okay, and I'll write this. Similarly, I will also, to save time, write the code for W. Input dot get key down key code dot W, and over here my code will be transform dot position plus is equal to new vector 3 0 comma 1 comma 0. And just like this, our entire movement code is implemented. I'll just come back to the screen, see if there are any errors, This is the play button is ready. A D D D D D W W W W W S S S S S. So this is how our movement and script is ready. It's how easy it is to start coding, and this is essentially the basics of Unity game engine. There are tons of things to learn about the engine itself. Like if you see, we just revise everything at once now. Everything that we saw till now is extremely basic, and it's just up to you how further down the lane you want to go and learn all these things. Okay, guys, I have to apologize for the constant audio issues on my end. There seems to be a small issue with regards to the hardware that I have, okay, now let's just revise everything that we've learned so far. Okay, so we saw how you can open a new project in the through your Unity hub. This is what your project folder is, and this is what your entire project structure looks like. This is where you can start a new project from. This is where you will find all the installs and the versions that are a part of the. Okay, how to start, how to stop cube to don't go out from the edge. So that. Okay. JD Games and Technology, that's a good question. How to stop the cube from going out of the edge? That's slightly, you have to make sure that it remains in the camera position. But what you can do is you can have the camera follow your cube as well. That's also a different script that you need to also attach to. So you can, what you can do is you can just move this cube, move a camera inside this cube, and now first cube has camera inside the object. So what happens is whenever you do this, the camera then follows the object, and now although the object is moved to 0,0,0 if you look at it, but there is no difference in terms of the view that you're looking at. Okay, and when I press my D button, if you look at the inspector panel, my position is moving, but my on the screen itself I cannot see anything happening, and this is because the camera is constantly following the object itself. I can do anything. I can press it in the left direction, press it in the right direction, move it up, move it down, but my object itself stays over there. All I need to do then is deparent the camera from the cube to the main hierarchy, and now I can see that okay, whenever my buttons are getting pressed, my object moves. So these are certain tips and tricks that you can actually all right. So now what we'll do is we will I want to speed up and then accelerate, then give a limit of speed. Okay. So what we'll do is, now there are multiple things that you can do over here. If you want to, let's say right now I have kept this at a constant 1 unit, right? If you say want to change the magnitude of 1, obviously it will be very cumbersome for you to always go ahead inside the code and write 1, right? But now what you can do is you have the option of putting this 1 value inside a variable. How to do that? Very simple. Instead of you now having to type the 1, I will just write over here int distance and equal to 1. Okay, and instead of this distance, instead of 1, I will just replace wherever I've written 1 with this variable called distance. Okay, I have now stored my value of 1 inside this one single variable, okay, which is now at 1, and I'll just hit the save button. I'll come back to Unity, and now I will again hit the play button. Okay, now here you will observe that nothing has actually changed. Nothing unique has happened, and because we haven't done anything new as such, with the exception of just changing how things work. So if I just press ADWS, right, nothing unique has happened. But if I come back to my script and I change the value of this distance to say 2, every time I press these buttons, my cube will move by 2 units. So I'll press A, see, every time I do this, every time I'm pressing WASD, my cube has started to move in 2 units, because I have told my code to do exactly that. So whenever I change any value over here, I don't need to change it every single time. I can change it only once. And there's a much more simpler way to do this as well. Now, even if you want to make sure that you don't even do this via code, you want to see just have like a framework which allows you to actually change this value, say from the inspector panel, because over here what you do is with the transform component is that you can change these values over here, right? I can just visually change these values over here. I can just move this to say 0,0,0, and this value is exposed to me. I can just see this value and I can do whatever I want, right? If you want this variable to be exposed just like it is in transform, position, rotation, and scale, just add a word called as public over here, and as soon as you add this word public and you come back to your Unity screen, you can see in your movement controller script over here there is a distance variable which is now at 2, showing you a unit called 2, and you can now edit this value to whatever you want. I will write 5 over here, and if I write 5 over here, this is completely disconnected to what you've written in the script itself. Writing 5 over there in your inspector panel does not change the value of this. This is what your script will get initialized with. Whenever you drag and drop the script anywhere onto any object, this is what the number that will appear as a default. But now if I hit the play button, my object will start to move by 5 units instead of 2. See, I am pressing this D button, my object's X value increased by 5. My object's X value decreased by 5, minus 5, 0. In Y, I'm at plus 5, minus 5. So this is how easy it is to work with Unity Game Engine. And there are different data types. What I've used over here is an integer. There is also a data type of float. So if you want to move this by say 1.5 units, then I need to just change the data type of this. Instead of float, int, I will write float over here. So whenever I write a float, what this means is that now I can add say 1.5, 1.25 or whatever, like in terms of pointers. So let's try this. I'll add 1.1 over here, and now whenever I hit the play button and I press A, W, S, D, then my object will move by 1.1 units. So 1.1, 2.2, 3.3, 4.4, so on and so forth. Okay, so like this you can tweak around, create different components, work with different components, change the value of those components. Now I'll also give a simple example. If you want to enable or disable a component, let's say there's this component called box collider, and if I go to the scene view and I zoom into this object, I can just observe in a very basic term, since I've zoomed inside the object, there's this green line. Now what is this line? This is actually the collider, and this is now part of the physics actually, wherein a lot of things are part of the engine. So collisions are basically when one or two objects stack up on top of each other. My hands cannot go inside them, right? My hands cannot go inside the other hand. This is because there is like a collision happening. The same thing happens with the cube as well. If something gets collided with the cube, it will not go inside the cube. Only till the point of time that there is a collider on the object, and these green lines are essentially the colliders. I can disable them by just disabling this component. There is this check mark over here that I can enable and disable. Now this is what I'm able to do from my clicking, right? Now what I want to do is, whenever I press some button, this collider gets disabled. Whenever I press another button, this collider gets enabled. Let's see how that can happen. So we've seen our input code. It is largely the same. I will say that if input dot get key down, key code dot e for enable, E for enable, and I was going to do D, but then we've already used D. So I'll just use E and R. Whenever I press E, my collider will get enabled, and whenever I press R, my collider will get disabled. Now, okay, we know that we want to disable the collider, but we have nothing to work with over here. We need to actually take the reference of this collider into something known as a variable now. Okay, and we've already seen what a variable is at the top. But now what kind of component we want to store? It's the box collider. So what I'll do is I will just use box collider over here, and I'll call this as box collider as the variable name. And this is my collider component. But this is not enough. I need to actually get a reference of this particular collider. I'll show you what a reference is. If I do this as a public variable, and you can make any variable public, alright, as long as it is supported in the proper data structure. As soon as I hit the save button, I have also made my box collider variable as public. I can see that over here in my box collider there is none, which means that this collision, this variable has no reference at all. There are again two ways that you can do this. Can't we use the same key for enabling as well as disabling? Yes, you can. That's a slightly much more little bit advanced concept, but we'll also look at it from that perspective as well. We'll try to enable and disable the object with the same key. Actually, you know what, let's do that only. Let's just get rid of the R button. Let's just do just with some single input, let's try to enable and disable the object. So right now my collider has no reference. There are two ways to get the reference. I can either drag this component by clicking over here on the title. Okay, over here I can drag this component and move this to the collider, and now I can see this has the reference, this variable has the reference of the box collider. Or I can do this programmatically. How? I will just go ahead in the start function, I will write box collider is equal to get component, and over here box collider, and since get component is a function, that's why that we have those round brackets. And then again, this should not be a small b, it should be a capital B, because we are getting a component, we are getting a data type. All right, I'll hit the save button, I'll come back to my Unity, and now when I've written this code, I have written it in the start function, which means that I actually have to play in order to get this component. So right now this is showing none, which is fine, we will not face any issues with this. But as soon as I hit the play button, you can see over here in the box collider, this component has now successfully been added, and we have successfully been able to now get this component. And now what we will do is move towards enabling or disabling. So now what I know is, okay, I have the component in place, I can now access this programmatically, and this component is saved in my variable called as box collider with a small b, it's not capitalized. So what I'll do is, if box collider dot enabled, all right, and this is again syntax, box collider dot enabled equal to not box collider dot enabled, which means that if my collision is active, then I'll just deactivate it, and if my collision is not active, then I'll just deactivate it. To make this even more simpler, I'll just make this as easy as this. I'll just divide it into two if statements. You can actually do this with a single if statement as well. Box collider dot enabled, which means I'll just use a not variable over here, box collider dot enabled equals to true. This means that whenever my box collision is enabled, I will make it disabled, and if my box collision is not enabled, I'll just enable it. We've written this code in the E button, so now I will do a play button press, and we have entered into the game mode. I've pressed E. Okay, there's some issue over here. If box collider dot enabled collider dot enabled equals to false, let's see what happens over here. I can also print this value. Okay, whenever you want to debug something and you can't figure out what's going wrong, you can simply debug dot log box collisions box collider dot enabled. Okay, so this will essentially give you a Boolean indicator of what is happening exactly. Okay, I can go back to my Unity. Now what will happen is, whenever I press the E button, okay, if I'm pressing my E button, it tells me that collisions is true. Okay, so over here, if you see in the console, my collision is true. What I will do now is, if box collider dot enabled box collider dot enabled equal to false. This is a very simple mechanic, alright? And the reason why the other thing was happening, because we had kept it in the same if block, we had actually kept the same key. So for that, I apologize. I realized what went wrong, because as we were checking the same thing in the same thing. Okay, so now we've disabled it. Now we don't need a double if statements, we actually need an else statement. Else if box collider dot enabled, and we have to add a not over here, which means that it is false, then box collider dot enabled equals to true. Now we have now worked with if else statements. Okay, the reason why the previous code did not work is because we enabled it and instantly we disabled it, or we disabled it first and instantly we enabled it. So that's the reason why it did not work. So you have to be careful whenever you code anything. I will also keep this as a check for us: input collisions before input and collisions after input. Okay, we are ready with this, and guys, with this small example we will end the technical session for Unity today, and we will then move on to the Q&A session. Alright, so now I'm pressing the play button, and after I've hit the play button, I can move my object up, down, left, right, and when I press E now, I can see my box collider component, which is over here, has disabled, and I'm again pressing the E button and my box collider component has been enabled. And the same can be observed here through our debug log. Collisions before input the first time were true, after input it became false. And once we pressed it again, after that the inputs, before the input it was false, and after the input it was true. So this is how easy it is to actually make games in Unity. Every single thing is about components and how you can programmatically interact with them. Every single thing, be it audio, be it your sprites, be it your images. Images are called as sprites, be it your textures. Every single thing, you just have to apply your logic on how you can work with these components. I have given you a basic pathway of how you can do this. It's now all up to you on how you can pick things from here and keep on practicing. One thing I would recommend is going ahead on Unity's official website and reading their documentation. This website has almost every single thing that you need. They also have a forum. If you go ahead to their forums, you will find a lot of information about them. There is an update on the current LTS version that is going on. There are a lot of resources that are available. And there is something that I personally find really useful is the documentation. So you can interact with the community, you can ask any sort of questions that you want, and you will get all the answers over here. So there is an extensive website and support from the community. So if you just go ahead onto their answers section, you'll see all these multiple questions being asked by people such as you and me. You'll get all the answers to your questions through their website. And this is how easy it is to make games in Unity Game Engine. I hope you guys enjoyed this session. I understand that there was a bit of an audio glitch on my end in between. I sincerely apologize for that. But now with that in mind, oops, I have moved my OBS video in the forefront. With that in mind, guys, I am here to now take any questions that you might have. So I have already been asked I think around 4 questions through the Scalar social media. We'll get started with the first 4 questions that have been already asked, and then we'll again move to the Q&A that is available through the chat right now. So the first question is how to make a good small team to kickstart the game development journey, how to manage the team. So a small team is really easy as well as difficult to make, and that's primarily because you have to first identify your own strengths and weaknesses. let's say if you think that you're good at programming, do the programming yourself. And if you think that you're bad at art, don't do the art yourself. Don't try to fill or bridge a gap that you are not strong at. Always find a replacement, or some guy who is good at that. Realizing your strengths and weaknesses is very much important to create a team, be it a small team or a large team. If you want to create a large team, you again have to identify your core areas when you are not as much of an expert as you think. So that's how you can start a small team, by identifying your strengths and weaknesses and doubling down on your strengths, whereas finding someone who can help you out with your weaknesses. How to manage the team? Well, there are multiple ways that you can manage your team. You can use software such as Trello. You can keep work tracking softwares. You can use communication channels such as Slack, or even creating a WhatsApp group is okay. One thing that you need to know is that managing a team is not an easy task. You might think that from the surface it looks really easy, but that's not true. You need to put in a lot of hard work and effort in order to make sure that you are able to manage the team properly. The second question that I got was, what did Gameon Studios use for making Mumbai Gullies, C++ or Blueprints? So we've actually made Mumbai Gullies using Unreal Engine, and we are using a mix of both. We are using both Blueprints as well as C++. The third question is, what do I require to get started in the game development field? So yeah, what do you require to get started in the game development field is very simple. One is you need to know what you want to do. Do you want to become a game programmer? Do you want to become a game artist? Do you want to become a sound designer? Do you want to just do marketing? So once you've identified that, okay, after that it's a matter of learning the framework. Let's say if you want to become a game programmer, right? Then all you need to do is learn programming, learn how to make optimum usage of your code, keep yourself updated about the new trends in the industry, identify which engine that you need to learn and double down on. So that's what you need to do to get started as a game programmer. Then if you want to get started as an artist, determine, do you want to become a 2D artist or a 3D artist or an animator, and subsequently then learn how to manage those softwares, right? Like for 2D art you need to know Photoshop, you need to know Illustrator. For 3D art you need to know Maya, Maya and Max. For sculpting you need to know ZBrush and Mudbox. For animating, you can do the animation in Maya or 3ds Max as well, and there are a couple of other softwares too. So identify what you need to do as a long term, and then start with the basics, the very basics. Okay, try to find courses online, try to find tutorials, try to find resources online, such as you did now with Scalar Academy's YouTube channel. So like this, try to identify resources for yourself and invest time, and if needed even money, to learn new skills, because investing money essentially blocks your time and gives you a little bit of seriousness of what you want to of how you want to achieve the said skill. Because investing your own hard-earned money, or even your parents' hard-earned money, gets you that level of seriousness. And nowadays the courses are not that expensive. I think you can learn any skill within like 3,000 or 4,000 rupees, right? And if you want to go for professional degrees, go for them, because that essentially gives you a temperament and the social skills that are needed to actually make it big in the industry. The fourth question is how to start if I want to develop a game, not a big one, but starting with a simple one with good graphics. So if you want to start making a game, all you need to do is first know the process. Okay, the process is quite simple as well. The process is pretty common sense. If the process is, first you get an idea. Okay, after you get an idea, you first start to document that idea. Whatever you want to make an endless runner game, you want to make an open world game, you want to make a fighting game, you want to make a shooting game, you start documenting that idea. This process is called as the documentation, or the document itself is called as the game design document. Once you have started that documentation, then you move ahead to create a prototype. Okay, what a prototype is, it's essentially the single most fun aspect of your game, without any high funda graphics or all full-blown audio effects or anything. It's just one single mechanic that works for your game and it is fun to play. So let's say, for example, if you want to make an endless running game, okay, first you write down everything that you need to make. After that, you move ahead to create a prototype. This prototype can be as simple as generating blocks endlessly and your character moving left or right. That's it. The way that we did today, right? We got the cube to move left, right, up, down. The same way you do with your own games as well. You start to move your character left or right, and subsequently you can actually structure the entire thing step by step. After you've done the prototype, then you start creating assets, you start creating artworks for the game, you start planning the UI, you start assembling everything in one place, and step by step like this you will then be able to create a complete package that will then work as a game. So this is what you need to do, get started. Now let's come to the questions in the chat itself. We've got some interesting questions coming in, I guess. Hi, what are the other tools we can use for game development? So there are multiple tools, as I mentioned. In terms of game engine itself, you can either use Unity game engine, you can use GDevelop, you can use Godot, you can use Construct 3, you can use Unreal Engine, CryEngine. Tons of tools available for making games. You can also make your games from scratch without relying on any engines of sorts. You can create your own engine as well, but that is a completely mad scientist level task that you'll have to go through. So you'll require a ton of knowledge with regards to mathematics to actually make your own engine. But apart from that, also there are tons of tools available nowadays that you can easily pick up. For graphic designing, you can do Photoshop, Illustrator, as I mentioned. For 3D, you can do Maya, Mudbox. For programming, learn any specific language. For if you want to make games in Unity, learn C#. If you want to make games in Unreal Engine, you learn C++. Like this, it depends what you want to achieve, and there are multiple softwares available that you can use to make games. So which software is best for making 2D objects? So personally, I think, according to me, and I'm not much of an artist, so I cannot guide you through the proper tools that are specifically required for making 2D objects. But at our company, what we realize is that you can more or less make any 2D objects or anything using Photoshop. And there are other tools as well. If you want to go for open source, you can go for GIMP. Like this, there are many other alternatives, but our preferred choice of making 2D assets at least is Photoshop or Illustrator. Will there be more sessions by you? Absolutely, we will be conducting more such sessions with in collaboration with Scalar. So guys, if you are new to this channel, subscribe to the Scalar Academy YouTube channel. They come up with a lot of interesting courses and mini webinars such as this for you to upskill yourself. And if you like this video, then press the like button. We have already crossed over 100 likes on this particular video, so thank you very much for that. Photoshop is sufficient. Yeah, Photoshop is sufficient, but then different people have their own set of preferences. So I just kept the answer open-ended, so that if someone does not want to use Photoshop, they are also open to use other software such as GIMP or other open source alternatives. Sir, I'm not good at programming. Pulkit Mins asked, sir, I'm not good at programming. Should I look for someone who's good and interested for game programming? Absolutely. As I mentioned earlier, you have to focus on your strengths. If you're a good artist, focus on the art side, focus on the thinking side of things, and hire some good programmer. Just double down on your strengths, and for any weakness that you have, just find a replacement. Sir, how did you overcome your fear of convincing your parents to get into game development field? So Pulkit, I think it was for me it was very easy task, because I started very early on, and the only thing that parents are concerned is that being in this field, will you be able to learn and earn, right? So learning is okay, but earning is the answer that your parents are looking for. And I started earning through making games and stuff, and that's the reason why my parents support me now. Can we make a multiplayer server on Unreal Engine and or Unity? So you can make a multiplayer server. You can use frameworks such as AWS to make your own server, but I think there are already frameworks available online that actually enable you to make multiplayer games. One such framework is Photon. Photon has like a really good solution that enables you to make games multiplayer. So you can try and check that out. Aurora Games says he has a question. So I will now take the last question because I think we've already ran out of time. This is already 6:45. We had a fun-filled session today, and we learned Unity Game Engine, and we saw the basics. We saw what are components and all. So I hope you guys had a fun time. Thanks, sir. I am a beginner and started making games for about 6 months. Our team is mainly focused on mobile games. All the best to you, UTH gamers. So what can you tell us about game story writing and game development? I'm also a writer. So story writing is slightly, a subjective task because it's an extensive topic that perhaps cannot be covered in a very short answer. So I will choose to skip that question for now. But I think it's an interesting aspect about story games. That's a really good question as well, but I think we are short on time, so I will not be able to answer that question in brief right now. And guys, I think I'll wait for Aurora Games to ask his question for now. But before that, since this is the last question that I'll be answering, I'll just quickly give a small outro. Guys, thanks a lot for being here till the end of the session, and thanks a lot for pressing the like button. Make sure you do not forget to subscribe to Scalar Academy's channel and press the bell icon so that whenever they upload any new video, you will get an instant notification for that. And now with this, I will take the last question. I think Aurora Games has not asked his question yet. So I'll take a question by Pulkit Mins, and then, okay, Aurora Games has already asked the question. So these are the last two questions that I'll take, and then we will end the session. So Pulkit Mins asked, for game design, we should make GDD, right? And put it our portfolio for recruiter to see. And how many GDDs should we make? I think make approximately 4 to 5 GDDs would be enough. Try to make a GDD of an existing game and try to detail out every single thing that you think might make the game interesting. That should be enough for you to put it as your portfolio. How to make going ball game player movement script. So Aurora Games, I think that's an extensive question because to guide you through the entire thing, I don't think would be possible in a very short time. But I think it's all a matter of just playing with your components, playing with your position, playing with the physics, playing with your inputs. That's the small answer to this. Yeah, I mean that's it, guys. That was the last question that I had. So thank you for coming on a Sunday evening to watch Learn Unity from Scratch, game development live session with me. My name is Nikhil Malankar. I am the founder and CEO of Gameobjects Studios. I'm also an active YouTuber. And thank you to Scalar Academy for inviting me onto their YouTube channel to host this session. I hope you guys had a wonderful time. And once again, as an outro, don't forget to hit the like button. If you're here for the first time, press the subscribe button and hit the bell icon so you don't miss another update. And obviously, if you like this, then go ahead to Twitter and use the hashtag #CreateImpact and tag Scalar Academy as well as me. And see you guys. Take care and have a wonderful Sunday evening.